the sense God gave a duck. Like, are you kidding me? What the hell? But they give us a sequence of Shawnee looking like she damn in prison in this little room doing pull-ups. Like, girl, is you getting ready for war? Like, you getting ready for a fight? What are you doing? You preparing for an MMA fight? Like, why did we get this sequence of Shawnee in here doing pull-ups? Baby, what was you doing? She doing pull-ups, eating food out of a can. You can't get no plastic plates, girl. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will be doing a subscriber requested review on the new Hulu series, The Other Black Girl, listed as comedy, drama, mystery, thriller. If you are not familiar, The Other Black Girl is a story about a black editorial assistant working at an all-white New York publishing company, and the arrival of a black co-worker sets into motion a series of events that leads to the unraveling of a mystery, conspiracy, just a bunch of freaky situations. Now, this is a 10 episode, about 30-minute per episode series that released the entire season. So it's formatted to be bingeable. I did finish it in 2 sittings. I likely could have finished it in 1, but I didn't start it until pretty late in the evening. And child, I got tired. It was late at night. I had to go get my hair done early in the morning. So I finished it up the second sitting, which on the second sitting, I only had, wait a minute, y'all, it was 3 sittings because I started it the night before my hair appointment. Then the next day I came home to finish it, and then I got sleepy and tired, and I only had 1 episode left, which I finished this morning. Okay, thank you. I'm tired, so I'm jumbling up my timeline, but formatted to be bingeable. Now, I will also be discussing The Other Black Girl over on my girl Tyra's channel, Struggle Reviews TV. So check us out over there. I'm not sure when I'll have this video up. As of now, it is Sunday, and I will be going live with her in literally like 4 hours. So I don't know if I'll have time to actually get this edited and up before that. But whenever you watch my video, just when you finish, go over to my girl's channel and check us out having that discussion so you can get a lot more opinions besides just mine. But I mean, you know, who wants another opinion besides mine? I mean, I don't, but I'm just kidding. Make sure y'all go over there and check that out. Now, let's just get right into the recap. I'll start with just recapping the show, and then we'll get into my overall thoughts and opinions on this series. But honestly, yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan. I found it pretty excruciating to get through. I was watching these episodes like, nigga, this only 30 minutes. Them mugs was feeling like 1 hour episodes. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it was really hard for me to get through. And I would be on like episode 4, like, God damn, nigga, it's only the 4th episode. Then I was on like episode 6, like, dang, I still got more episodes. I was ready for this month to be over. But let's get into it. Now, at the very top of the series, we see a flashback to, I think it was like 1988 or 1986. And there is a black woman in the office, and she's walking towards the elevator. It ends up transitioning to her walking to a subway, which I actually like that transition. And as the series progresses, we realize that this character is the character of Megan Ray, who is our main character, Nella's like inspiration. She was a black editor at this publishing company that Nella now works at. The only black editor in like the, well, more than 35-year history, but since she was an editor, it's been 35 years. So pretty long history. She was the only black editor, and of course Nella is hoping to follow in her footsteps. Now, I do like the way the series opens with that sequence, and like I said, I like that transition. Now, we then end up jumping to present day, and we see Miss Nella in the same office working for Wagner Books. That is this publishing company, and we end up, y'all, Nella is actually the girl who played Chris from Insidious Red Door, which if you didn't catch my review on that, make sure you check that out. But yes, I like this young lady. I was very happy to see her doing something again. I wish she would have did something I actually liked, but I like her. I really liked her. She was a standout in Insidious, and I like her here as well. Now, we pretty much open up where the series is focusing on this inter-office relationship and politics of being the only black person in a corporate office, which I can relate to, and I'm sure a lot of other black people can relate to. And even if it's not a corporate office, just being the only black person in a white space. And we have some pretty typical white characters that you would come across in these situations. One thing I didn't care for, though, is the comedic angle. The characters felt very cartoonish for me in the approach. I wanted it to be more of a serious tone, but presumably comedy is way more palatable for people to digest content like this, so I'm guessing that's why we went for the comedic approach. And I mean, me personally, I could be biased because I'm not the biggest fan of comedy. Now, Nella has this one coworker, Sophie, who is the typical, like, over-the-top white person who's an ally to black people. And our introduction to Sophie is her coming over to Nella saying, did you get the article I sent you? And Nella pulls the article up right then, pulls the email up. And the article is the token in the corporate machine being black in a white workspace. And Sophie goes on about how it is such an important topic, and I'm always looking for ways to be a better ally to you. That piece got me so fired up. Now, I do like and appreciate Nella's reaction in these very uncomfortable situations, but I just wish, like I said, I wish like the character of Sophie didn't come off as such a caricature. I just didn't like the comedic aspect of it. It made it feel less serious than it is for me personally, as well as Nella's boss, Vera, and this like racist Arthur that we have to work with, Colin. I didn't like the comedic approach. I really felt like it took away from the authenticity of the fact that characters like this are real. So that comedy aspect kind of watered down the experience of being a black person in these situations for me personally, because I just feel like the average viewer who isn't privy to these things, it won't feel very real to them. These won't feel like real people to them, in my opinion. Now, we end up seeing these moments where we have these horror aspects, presumably thriller aspects. For example, Nella is sitting at her cubicle at the office when suddenly her computer like switches to this surveillance footage, and it looks like there's a surveillance camera focused on Nella at her desk, and then it just switches out. I didn't like stuff like this because nothing ever came of this. It wasn't tied to anything. Why did that flicker on Nella's computer? Is there a security camera watching her desk? Nothing comes of this. There is seemingly no rhyme or reason for these little horror aspects, can I talk? Aspects that they throw into the series. Even when we have Kendra at the very top of the episode with the opening that I said I liked, where she's like running from the office to the subway. What is that? Why did that happen? What was going, like, there's no real explanation for these being real moments in the narrative. Now, we end up getting a moment where Nella comes to her office, and we have this woman, Maisie, I think her name was, and she's all excited, and she tells Nella, you just have to meet my new assistant. Why I gotta meet a girl? Because she black? Yes! Now, this introduction of our character of Hazel. Now, Maisie is introducing Hazel to Nella. She's saying how Hazel mentors underprivileged kids in Harlem. And Hazel is like, we use the term opportunity challenged. The heck? Who uses that term? Am I out of touch? Who uses that? I have never in my life said opportunity challenge. I mean, I've never said underprivileged either. But I'm like, who uses the term opportunity challenge? Y'all, do y'all use that term? Am I out of touch? Now, she ends up saying our job is to embolden, the kids, anything for my hood. I don't know. The dialogue in this series, honestly, is a little cringy and for me, a little unnatural. I was looking at these moments when I was just like, wait, what? It didn't feel like real people for me. It didn't. Now, Nella and Hazel end up having a conversation about, college and where they went to school. And for some reason, while they talking about this, Maisie is in the background, like doing the bankhead bounce. I was just like, what they did good making these white folks so awkward. Now, we end up meeting after this whole exchange and everything at the office, and Nella now has her first black coworker. Outside of that, we end up the audience meeting Nella's best friend, Malika, my girl. And then we also end up meeting Nella's boyfriend, Owen. But my other issue with Owen and Nella is the fact that they have absolutely no romantic chemistry. They come off more as friends, less as lovers. Nella, Malika, and Owen felt like a friend group. Nella and Owen did not feel like a romantic couple. Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. No, I didn't buy it. Good actors, but they had absolutely zero chemistry. Did they even kiss though? I don't even recall them even kissing. I think she hugged him or something when they finna go get wine, but I'm like, I don't think they even kiss, y'all. Which you don't even have to kiss to convey that chemistry of being romantic, but yeah, they were really giving me friend. Now, Nella is really excited about Hazel, and her boyfriend is saying, like, should we have her over for dinner? And Nella is super excited, like, yes, then me and Hazel can be work friends and real friends. Now, I don't subscribe to that, okay? Work is work, home is home. I do not subscribe to having work friends in real life. Unless y'all were already real life friends, then y'all work together. But if you meet at work, nah, bro, I don't need everybody in the office knowing my motherfucking Kool-Aid. Now, a conflict that arises for Nella is she is at work and she is in her boss's office, Vera, the woman that she is the assistant to, and they're having a conversation, and Vera ends up telling Nella that she is going to recommend her for the assistant editor promotion. And then they get into a conversation about Nella's thoughts on Colin's book, Needles and Pine Cones? Something like that, child. Colin is basically their most important client, the most successful writer that they have attached to their publishing company. So he's pretty much the superstar around their office. And Nella's critique of his work when she's talking to Vera is that the character of, what was her name? Chartricia? The only black character in the entire book. Nella feels like she is problematic, that she doesn't know who her child's father is. All of her friends are crackheads. Baby, how's all your friends crackheads? That the character pretty much hits on every single harmful stereotype for black people. And Vera's reaction for me was very typical of like a white person at work asking your opinion, because Vera tells her not to hold back. And when Nella actually doesn't hold back and gives her opinion, which wasn't even crazy the way she delivered it, in my opinion, Vera's just like, wow. And when Nella's like, well, you told me not to hold back and you sure didn't. Baby, when people ask you for your opinion, and tell you don't hold back, that ain't really what they mean. They don't really want your unfiltered, don't hold back opinion. They want you to pretty much reaffirm what they already feel. So they feel good about it. Now, Vera ends up telling Nella, look, when you see Colin at this party that we're having, you're going to tell him you love needles and pine cones, nothing else. So she does not want Nella to give any critique to Colin about the character of Shartricia in the book. Now, we end up seeing Nella and Hazel hanging out outside of the office. They're in the courtyard. And everything with Hazel was suspect from the very beginning. Baby. And I did not see any previews before watching this. I didn't read any synopsis. I just knew the show and I just played it. But the way this character Hazel is baby, everything about her was suspect. So they're out in the courtyard having a conversation at work. Hazel goes to get something out of her purse. So you know how you pulling stuff out because you're looking for something? Hazel just so happens to pull a book out of her bag that is Nella's favorite book, like monumental book. And that just felt very contrived and manipulative. Like, baby, you set this up, Hazel. Hazel, you set this up. You knew this was the girl's favorite book. That's why you got it in your bag. And in order for Hazel to have information like that, she had to get it from somebody. So that was on the forefront of my mind in this situation. And Hazel is just like, oh, it's my favorite book too. After Nella's like, hey, this is my favorite book. Now, we end up seeing Richard Wagner, who is the person, obviously the company is called Wagner. So he is the person that's over the company, right? He introduces himself to Hazel. They have their little interaction. Now, as Nella is sitting at her desk, she ends up like huffing or something like that because she ends up getting an instant message about keeping it sweet when Colin comes, reaffirming the conversation she had with Vera. And Hazel, all up in Nella cubicle, is like, what's going on? You know, spill the tea. And this is when Nella, baby, you gotta learn how to hold water. Like, you don't know this girl from I'm not telling a new co-worker all kind of, I don't know you. I don't know who you finna tell this to. Nella, baby, Nella's lack of like self-preservation, attention to like detail and cues from social cues was astonishing. She was way too trusting when it came to Hazel, and she shows such a lack of common sense. But anyway, Nella goes on to tell Hazel the situation with Colin's book and how everyone is excited for the book and it's going to be huge for the company, but that the whole situation with the Shartricia character. And when Hazel is telling Nella that she needs to speak up and say something, Nella is like, well, there's this promotion and this isn't the time for me to go out on a limb. Y'all, Hazel ends up telling Nella, if it's dangerous, he needs to hear it. I'll have your back when the time comes. Just say the word. Don't let this girl you don't know gas your ass up. You work at this company. You know these folks. You know how they operate. You know this Arthur. Everything about this felt like a setup. And I knew off rip, if your dumb ass say something, Nella, this girl is not going to have your back. Now, the character of Colin. Again, for me, didn't feel like a real person. Now, the inherent traits and characteristics, yes, real person. But the comedic way he comes off, the over-the-top comedic way he comes off, it felt like I was watching a sitcom. I didn't like that tone of the series. Now, the Arthur Colin, he comes in and oh my God, the introduction to this character. He comes in so obnoxious, so lame. He's like, Daddy's home. Who walk into the office saying Daddy's home? It was just too much. It was too much for me. Now, they're at the office party. Nella ends up getting called over by Vera. It's Vera, Hazel, and Colin. And I'm saying, like, why gets Hazel over here? Now, they're having a conversation about the book. And Nella is surprised when Hazel says she read it. And she ends up being like, yeah, I read it this afternoon. I wanted to be prepared. And this is when the question comes up about how does Nella feel about the book. And Colin immediately says, it's my baby. What did you think? Y'all, you gotta learn social cues. You gotta learn how people operate. If somebody asks your opinion on something and preface it, the question for your opinion with something like, it's my baby, I love it, it means a lot, I'm so happy, any of that stuff, and your opinion about it is negative, baby, they don't really want your opinion. That's why they're kind of prefacing it with, oh, it's my baby. Oh, if they're talking about a new boyfriend, oh, what do you think of Johnny? I'm so in love. Baby, don't say nothing negative. They don't want to hear it. Nella goes into, oh, it's rich and, tragic in a good way. But then she has to go into Chartricia being problematic for black people. And you could tell it's not going well. So she goes into, well, I know other people feel that way. And kind of looks at Hazel, who stays silent. So then Colin turns to Hazel, well, what did you think? And this is another one of those situations where this white person don't really want to know what the black person thinks. They just want you to reaffirm and give them permission that, oh, it's all good. You keep doing what you're doing. Oh, yeah, I'm good with it. Oh, great. Now I have your black seal of approval. It must be okay. You don't really want to know what you think, girl. Because this black person over here, Nella, just told him what she thinks, and he ain't trying to hear. So now he's trying to come to you so you can tell him what he is trying to hear. And, babe, what the hell you think Hazel do? Hazel throws Nella under the bus. I like the book. It was very gripping. I think Chartricia has potential. It read really well. I'd have been sitting there like, bitch. Hold on, girl. What? Like, bitch, you told me to say this. Now, in context of the actual story we get, this actually doesn't make any sense. We finna jump ahead, okay? Hazel was sent here to befriend Nella and pull her on over to our little group. I guess I won't spoil that just yet. So if my whole purpose is to befriend somebody, why would the first motherfucking thing I do be to throw them under the bus and get on their sour side? Because if Nella was anybody else, this it, bridge burnt. Because I don't even know you. So now my first impression of you, I don't even want to know nothing else. We'd have just been co-workers. I'd have just been giving you cold, good morning, goodbye. Did you get the email? Here's the file you're looking for. Like, it wouldn't have been no hanging out buddy outside of work. So this whole interaction makes no sense. And it was popped off by Hazel. Hazel is the one who pushed Nella to say something just to throw her under the bus. So what was the point of doing that when the whole time you supposed to be here to befriend the girl and get her on your side and all this other rah-rah-ish? It just ain't make no sense. Now, child, all of a sudden, Nella done went from the damn glue of the company to a scrub real fast. Because earlier, Richard had called her the glue around here. Child, Richard ends up walking over because the whole office done heard this interaction. Richard ends up walking over, asking Hazel to write some kind of editorial letter for Colin that the more eyes they have on this, the better. Meaning we don't just want Nella eyes on this ish. I was just like, Lord Jesus. Richard walks off with Hazel, who Hazel ends up giving Nella this like confused, I don't know what's wrong, like face. Like, girl, you just set me up. Now we end up seeing Nella leaving the office late, and she finds a note in her pocket that says, leave Wagner now. Now, at the end of the series, I still felt like, who the hell wrote the note? Like, we ain't never solved that. Like, what was the point of that? Did it come from the shiny girl? I don't know. Y'all, for me, that never went anywhere. I don't know what the point of that was. And again, we have these moments where Nella is leaving the office, machines suddenly go off, lights flicker, Nella runs to the elevator. She sees like a black woman reflected in the elevator doors, which is Kendra. And there are moments where Nella keeps seeing this woman's reflection. Again, why? There's no rhyme or reason for any of this. It feels like they just threw in these little elements. Now, Hazel doing the most. The next day at work, she's bringing in pastries for the office. She's acting oblivious to why Nella is upset. And Hazel ends up saying, I said I would have your back when the time was right and the time wasn't right. Like you said, it was my first day. Y'all, all I could think was, hold on now, baby, because that ain't what you said. You did not say, I'll have your back when the time is right. You said, I'll back you when the time comes. Baby, the time came and you ain't back me. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. But Nella she just takes it. And Hazel tried to say, yeah, I brought pastries because I thought it'd be a nice thing to do for my new coworkers. It's not about you. Y'all, none of Hazel's actions make sense when we find out she's supposed to be befriending the girl. Why do all this? Oh, God. It frustrates me. Because I'm sorry, it don't make no sense. Now, Vera, the previous night at the party, when the whole thing happens with Colin, tells Nella she wants to see her in her office first thing. So now the next day we're at the office. Vera is like, Nella, in my office. And they have this conversation and Vera is just like, is this what I get for trusting you? You're my dog's godmother. And this is like everything for me. With Vera, Susie, Colin, the whole inter-office politics, it feels very comedic, sitcom-y. I didn't like it. But Vera is just like, is this what I get for trusting you? You're my dog's godmother. Now, Vera wants Nella to apologize. And I was actually surprised that Nella was against apologizing. Because, first of all, without the push from Hazel, she wasn't even going to say nothing. And then it's very contradictory how we have this thing in the story where Nella is against compromising. But all Nella does is compromise. So it doesn't make any sense. Now, Nella ends up in this conversation saying, I think we should bring in an outside sensitivity reader. Vera is against the idea. And then they get into the conversation about the promotion because Nella's like, wait, because Vera said something about having to talk to Colin to try and save Nella's job. And Nella's like, wait a minute, I thought I had a promotion. Promotion? Bitch, you lucky you still here today. That's what Vera says. She ain't say the B word. Now, Nella ends up at her friend Malika's housewarming party. And this didn't make any sense to me. She leaves the housewarming party to go back to the office because this thing with Colin has undone her last 2-3 years. She needs to get Vera to trust her again. Why you ain't just stay at the office and show up to the housewarming party late if it was so important for you to do something at the office? Y'all, am I tripping or does that not make it? If there is something important for me to do at the office, I'm going to stay at the office late and arrive at my friend's housewarming party late. Why would I, with something important to do at the office, leave the office just to go back to the office that's like a few hours later? Am I tripping? Am I the crazy one? But it just does not make any sense at all for me. Now, we see Nella in the office and she ends up thinking someone is in there, but she ends up being led to the archive room. And this is when she finds some old documents and she decides to go to Vera with an idea for a re-release of the book Burning Heart. Now, Burning Heart is the book that was inspirational for Nella. It was a huge success for Wagner Books. And it was headed by Diane, a black author, and Kendra, the first black, editor of Wagner. So it holds a special place with Nella. It was huge for the company. So she has this idea that just in time for the 35-year release, they can re-release it so they can expose a new audience to it. And she ends up with an idea that, we should get Kendra Ray and all this other stuff. But we end up being told that Kendra Ray has been off the grid for 35 years. That the book was released and then she just disappeared. And Vera goes into, now how do you plan to find her? Like, she is off the grid. Now, Hazel ends up finding Nella in the restroom, upset, and Nella's like, just leave me alone. Now, Hazel ends up telling this story that, the last job she had, there was a black woman there that hated her and didn't look out for her the way we're supposed to, and she tried to call out Colin, or tried to tell Colin in a roundabout way, and you catch more flies with honey. Nothing Hazel say makes sense. First of all, baby, I can see why the black lady at your last job ain't like you. Like, you ain't smoothing things over for me with that. And then to say I tried to tell Colin in a roundabout way. No, ma'am. No. I was there. I heard what you said. Hazel goes on to say, you know what? I tried to, say things to Colin in a way where I was catching flies with honey, whatever the hell. But I left you out to dry. Maybe there's still a chance, to do something. I wouldn't listen to nothing Hazel has to say. All I kept thinking is Nella Hazel playing you, my G. Now, Hazel ends up gassing Nella up again, saying you shouldn't have to apologize for standing up for what you believe in. Y'all, I couldn't. Now, Nella already let this girl gas her up to tell Colin this information. Left her out to dry. Now she's telling you, don't apologize. Now your boss told you not to say nothing to the man. Hazel gassed you up to say something, got your ass in trouble. Now you ain't up for your promotion. Now your boss tell you to apologize and Hazel say you shouldn't have to apologize. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, Nella, shame on you. Now, we end up seeing Hazel and Nella at their cubicles. They sit next to each other. I don't know if I mentioned that. And Vera comes over with Colin, and she ends up saying that, Nella has something she like to say to you, Colin. And Nella's just like, I like your hat. And Hazel was just like, it's nice to know where you stand. So they had a conversation. So that alludes to like, oh, so you ain't do the apology? Now we know your future here. And when I peep Hazel in the background, I feel like she was looking happy. My whole thing with Hazel, when I first started the series, I thought it was a situation where she felt a competition with Nella and was trying to get Nella fired or get Nella up out of there so she could get the black editor position. That's what I thought. Because every move Hazel was making in the beginning felt like she was just sabotaging Nella. That's all this girl was doing. Now, as Colin and Vera start to walk away, Nella stands up and it's like, also, and she apologizes. When I tell you I would have died. I could stomach in the first place just lying and saying, oh yeah, the book is fine. I could stomach that a lot more than apologizing to this man. Oh my God. And then when Colin touches Nella's shoulder, oh my God. No, I would have died. And it felt like when we see Hazel's facial expression in the background, it sure felt like she was not happy that Nella apologized. But like I said, when we find out she's supposed to be befriending the girl, it just all don't make sense. It just doesn't tie together for me. Vera like had a headache earlier in the day. And Hazel goes into her office like, oh, I just want to see how you were feeling. If you need anything, you can ask me. I'm free because Maisie is leaving early to try and poach Arthur. Knowing they have a competition with each other, and this would be used to get Vera out of the office trying to poach the Arthur that Maisie trying to poach. Now, Nella ends up shocked because she say in 2-3 years, Vera never let her out of the office before 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or something like that, ever. Even when her damn grandma died, she had Nella working. Now, Nella ends up shocked because Vera comes over saying, you know what, I work you too hard. I work hard. Take some time. Once you done, you know, you can leave. I'm leaving. Make this reservation for me at this restaurant. Baby, Nella should be suspicious. You known this lady for how many years and she never let you leave before 6 o'clock. But now, Hazel done work some magic and play her to now y'all finna leave. If you gonna play her, you gonna play me. Like, I don't know you, girl. Y'all. Come on, Nella, baby. Now, Nella and Hazel end up in the restroom getting ready for the party. And Hazel gives Nella, like, some of her clothes, put some makeup on her. But we end up seeing Hazel, like, scratching her scalp really weird. And then she starts bleeding. Now, something weird in this situation was when they're in the restroom, Hazel is having this conversation with Nella and she's telling her, promise me you'll take this as a win. And the way she like grabs Nella's hand is like, promise me. I'm sitting here like, baby, that feel like voodoo. Like, I saw what happened to Kate Hudson in the Skeleton Key. I'm not playing these games, girl. Let my hand go. I'm not saying promise. Like, that was so freaky to me. Now, Nella ends up noticing Hazel bleeding, but she, like, gets upset, gets Hazel out the restroom, like, gets Nella out the restroom, like, I'll like, give me a minute, I'll be there. And now that ends up going somewhere. But all that other little stuff with lights flickering and machines turning on and Nella seeing Kendra Ray, none of that added up for me. It made no sense. But should I go ahead and just get into why baby Scout will bleed? No, we gonna hold that. But we do find out. Now, they go to this party. Hazel is lying. You know, like, if we say we belong there, we belong there. Now, Nella has this podcast she listens to that she loves. She ends up running into the producer of that podcast. And the guy who, podcast it is, Nella is interested in getting with him so that he can come to Wagner. She knows he has a great book inside of him. And the producer is just like, nah, he'll never go over there to Wagner. Like, good luck to you on your journey. You feel like you could change things from the inside, but since I got 15 years on you, I know ain't nothing gonna change, but yeah, good luck. And she pretty much pieces out. So the guy, Jesse, who is on the podcast, pretty much don't want nothing to do with the Wagner company. It goes against, like, his whole principles and everything. Now, while Nella is out here trying to talk and do all this stuff, she's introducing herself as an editor with Wagner. And Richard Wagner ends up hearing her do this. He just so happens to be at this party. Now, they end up going out on the balcony, having a conversation, and Richard is asking Nella, like, so what would you do? You're this big, fancy editor. What would your first project be? And Nella goes to apologize, and she's like, I'm sorry, I didn't think. Oh, you didn't think you would get caught? And Nella's like, you know what? It's not me, this party, the line, the lip color. But Richard actually likes it and is impressed. And he's like, this is the ballsiest thing I've ever seen you do. Keep going. Tell me about your first project. And this is when she pitches her idea for the re-release of Burning Heart. And Richard goes on to say how Burning Heart is the thing he's most proud of in his career, that Kendra Ray is his biggest regret. And he goes to tell this very shaky story to Nella about how Kendra's bag and ID was found on the subway platform and she was never heard from again. And that's the official story, but it's not true. Kendra took her own life and it broke his heart. Baby, none of this story don't add up. The story don't make no damn sense. Now, this just reaffirms that for Nella, this is a good idea, because she's like, shouldn't we re-release the book to honor Kendra? Now, Richard tells her, let's talk about this tomorrow. Now, within the story, we get these flashbacks of Kendra and Diana. Remember, Kendra was the black editor. Diana is the woman who wrote the book. Now, Kendra and Diana were lifelong childhood friends. And the situation we see with how Diana was able to get her book up is she pops up at Wagner Books saying like, oh, I brought lunch for you, Kendra, but ends up running into Richard, pitching an idea about this book. And Richard's like, oh, well, let's all have lunch together in 5 minutes to discuss it. And at first it rubs Diana the wrong way, because she's like, did you come here to bring me lunch or pitch yourself to my boss? But Kendra's just like, girl, I came here for you, but this is going to be great for both of us. And Kendra just kind of shrugs it off. Now, we end up seeing Nella and Hazel get into a taxi after the party. Richard is in a car behind them on the phone saying, things have changed, I need you. So now I'm thinking, okay, whatever is going on, Richard and Hazel are in on something. I didn't know what it was, but I was like, yeah, they're in on something. Who is he calling that's in this with them? Now, when Nella is out with her BFF, Malika, this black woman bumps into her, and we have these moments where we keep seeing this black woman like outside of Nella's job. Come to find out, it's a woman named Shawnee, who is the woman that worked with Hazel at her last job in Boston. And Shawnee ends up running into Nella again on the train, and she says, Hazel isn't who you think she is. Her real name is Eva. And she drops a piece of paper in Nella's purse that says a place and time for them to meet. This don't make no damn sense. If I am telling you that, okay, so the whole situation is back in Boston, Shawnee ended up having the new coworker of Eva, aka Hazel. And they have this at first they're getting along, everything great, because hey, finally I got another black person. They go hang out outside of work. They have this very odd conversation where Shawnee is just going into everything that happened at the office, which again, running your damn mouth too soon when you don't know this girl. But anyway, child, early in the game, Hazel was not smooth with it. And she goes to pitch something in this jar that will take away all the worry and all this, weight on your shoulder. And Shawnee is like, is it drugs? What's in it? She opens it. She's like, is this hair grease? She ends up being like, I don't want nothing to do with this. Like, pain is a part of our story. And she runs up out of there. Now, Shawnee ends up going to work, And when she walks in, security is clearing her desk. The boss calls her into the office with these two guys in suits. I don't know what happened. They don't tell us. But she gets fired. Then when she gets fired and she's walking out of the building, she's on the phone. And this ain't make no sense to me. The phone call is her rent wasn't paid and now she don't have nowhere to live. Like, what's the date? How late is your rent? How you automatically getting kicked out on the street anyway? But if I got this whole situation where this girl named Eva done ruined my life and I track her down in New York, living under another name, seemingly targeting another black woman, and I finally come into contact with this woman, I'm not going to drop a piece of paper and say, meet me somewhere. No, bitch, now is the time for us to talk. I got some stuff to tell you about the girl you think. Let's talk right the hell now. It just ain't make no sense for me. I'm sorry. It didn't. Like, something this pertinent, why the hell are we not talking now? Girl, that person name that you think is Hazel, that's Eva. She ruined my life. Let's go talk right now. I got information you need to know. She dangerous. For real. We just dropped the note in her bag and just took off. Like, what you ran for, girl? Y'all, I had to take that sweater off. I was boiling. Before I started filming, I was cold, so I put the sweater on. But then, oh my God, I got hot real quick, and I was boiling to death, so I had to take that damn sweater off. But anyway, let's get back into the story. Now, we end up, after Nella goes to this party, baby got a whole new bag, whole new swag, and Nella is at work wearing lipstick now and earrings, all because of Hazel's influence. She was very much plain Jane at the top of everything. Now, Nella ends up at work and she gets called into Richard's office. And he has her in there to meet with Diane, who wrote Burning Heart, Kendra's BFF. And I am immediately thinking, that's who was on the phone. This is who was on the phone. Diane, Richard, and Hazel got something going. I didn't know what, but I'm like, okay, yeah, it's something with these three. They're in this together. It was so obvious. Now, they end up having this editors meeting where everyone is trying to pitch book ideas for Diane. Y'all, all these ideas were so stupid. I'm just saying, like, wait, y'all supposed to be professionals? Vera pitches an idea about a narrative-driven cookbook? What? And then someone else pitches an idea about King Lear, but from the black female perspective. And like touches Hazel's shoulder. And I'm just like, bitch, why are you touching my shoulder? Now, Nella ends up pitching her idea about a re-release of Burning Heart, new cover art, a foreword by a young, fresh voice, opening the book up to people that already love it, but, you know, also a new audience. And Diana likes the idea. And she says, looks like somebody, you know, came to work today out of everybody. But she shoots the idea down as it being too painful and she doesn't want to look back. Now, when Nella is in the restroom after this meeting, Diana ends up walking in. And Nella goes into, you know, I shouldn't have pitched that idea. I can get how, you know, it's too sad of a story. It's too painful. But Diane is like, you had the best idea of everybody in the room. It just wasn't the right one. And she ends up telling Nella, you have potential. You just need a little polish. Baby, I don't like that word polish. I don't. It's two words that when it comes to, when people say polished or professional when it comes to your look, really it be called for, you know, you need to fit white ideals. Like, and as soon as she said that, I just was like, what you mean polished? Because the girl hair natural, like, what you mean polished? Now Diane ends up saying, why don't you come to my place Saturday, we could talk shop. Now, Nella is at Diane's house and she happens to have this set up at the same time that she set up for Hazel to come to her house with her and Owen and Malika to have a dinner. So Nella is at Diane's house. And again, we have this odd situation where Diane goes to get something, leaves Nella alone. Nella hears some kind of whispering calling her name. But y'all, okay, what the hell was any of this? Nella ain't crazy. Why she kept seeing Kendra, hearing her name being called, the lights flickering, it made no sense. But then when we jump later in the story and people have the hair grease, they see the lights flickering. But Nella did not have that in these moments when all this stuff was happening. So what was the tie-in with that? It made absolutely no sense. Now, Nella ends up finally getting home for the dinner. And, oh wait, before Nella gets home, Hazel gets to the apartment right on time. And it's just Hazel, Owen, and Malika. And they have this awkward interaction. And Malika goes to tell Hazel, you not jealous that Nella's having this meeting with Diane without you? And it's this whole situation where when Nella gets back to the apartment, I forgot to say, Nella pitches an idea to Diane about why don't she do a memoir? And Diane says, I've thought about it, but never found an editor I can trust. Baby, the editor you can trust is right here. So Diane is up saying, why don't I stop by Monday? We could talk to Richard about it. Now, back at the apartment, when Nella finally gets back home, she's so in love with this German Riesling that Diana gave her that she wants her and Owen to go get some German Riesling when they're out of wine. But it made no sense to me. They had one bottle of wine for a dinner with 4 people, and then Owen is like, oh, we out of wine. Why y'all only had one bottle? So Nella and Owen leave to go get some more wine, and Malika is there by herself with Hazel. And again, this was so easy. Malika is wearing a TLC shirt, and when we are at this dinner interacting and everything, Hazel is like, oh, that's my favorite girl group. Next thing I know, a TLC song comes on the playlist. And I knew. I said, I bet you Hazel not gonna know that song. And what the hell y'all think happened? Hazel ain't know the song. And Malika is like, well, this your favorite girl group, TLC. Oh, now I could hear it. And y'all, the song that was playing was Red Light Special. Come on now, child. You don't even have to say TLC is your favorite group, but that was one of their biggest hits. The average person, even if they're not a TLC fan, know Red Light Special. Come on now, child. But it was stuff like this that felt like lazy writing for me. This was just too easy. Oh, that's my favorite band. Next thing we know, the song just happened to come on. One of the songs from the band you just said was your favorite. Come on, child. Now, they end up having a conversation, and Malika is like, just so you know, Hazel, I'm not buying your little act. You tried to screw over Nella the first day y'all met, but now y'all best friends and it's puppies and lollipops. Like, I'm not buying none of that. So Hazel is like, look, I messed up with Nella, but we moved past it. I'm not sure why you hung up on something that's not your business. Well, baby, anything involving my BFF is my biz naive. Now, Nella ends up getting back with Owen with like 6 bottles of wine. And immediately Malika's like, Nella, can we talk in private? Child, they have a whole argument about Hazel that Owen and Hazel can hear. And back in the room when they're having a conversation, Malika is like, I mean this with love, but bitches, you blind. Now, this didn't make any sense. And this goes also into me talking about the character of Nella. When Malika brings up how Hazel said TLC was her favorite group, but she didn't even know they song. Oh, well, maybe she said that trying to bond with you. Baby, you don't bond with me over a lie. Like, in what realm does that make any sense? Like, are you crazy? Oh, she was just trying to bond with you by lying? How is lying bonding? Come on. Y'all. Nella. Y'all, I'm gonna be honest, I couldn't with Nella. I could not with Nella. It made absolutely no sense how she kept making allowances for Hazel. So they end up having having this argument, and I could not believe that Nella raggedy tail got nerve to tell Malika, oh, maybe you should go so we can enjoy our meal. You kicking your BFF out for what? Cause she don't like your new little friend? That don't seem reason enough to me to kick me the hell up out your house. I was invited for dinner. Baby, when I tell you I love Malika and Malika is me. Malika, when she get kicked out, go into the kitchen, grab some Tupperware and start getting some food. Like, baby, I waited forever to eat this, so I'm finna take some home. I'm right there with you, Malika. Now, of course, Nella and Malika end up making up. That's what friends do. Please tell me why Hazel pops up on Malika at her job. With the whole, oh, I didn't know you worked here. But Malika's like, bitch, you asked me 4 times at dinner where I work. First of all, that's sloppy. That's sloppy. Don't pull her. Oh, I didn't know you worked here when you asked the girl 4 times at dinner where the hell she worked. So Malika's just like, girl, you knew the hell I worked here. Don't come for me because it won't go well for you. But baby, Hazel ends up saying, oh, as usual, Malika, you have it backwards. You the one don't want to F with me. And she goes into, oh, Nella and I are working closely together now, and I'm not going anywhere at work or in her life, so I suggest you get used to that. What's the point of this? Why come to Malika's job and do this? What are you hoping to gain from this? It really made no sense. And something else that didn't make no sense to me is Malika seemingly never told Nella anything about Hazel popping up at her job and saying, I'm the one you don't want to F with. Now, Malika is the outspoken friend, no holds bar. You have been telling Nella this girl is trouble and not what she seems. And when she pops up at your job like a psycho talking about, I'm the one you don't want to F with, which is the opposite of the personality she portrays, you don't tell Nella? Nah, I gotta admit, my attention was waning. So y'all, did I miss that? But I do not recall Malika ever telling Nella about Hazel popping up. Remember, we had the whole situation where Shani bumped into Nella and dropped the piece of paper in her pocket about the meeting, right? Now, it was a lot of stuff I feel could have been edited out. But they give us a sequence of Shani looking like she damn in prison in this little room doing pull-ups. Like, girl, is you getting ready for war? Like, you getting ready for a fight? What are you doing? You preparing for an MMA fight? Like, why did we get this sequence of Shani in here doing pull-ups? Baby, what was you doing? She doing pull-ups, eating food out of a can. You can't get no plastic plates, girl. And we get a sequence where we see her every day doing this same thing, doing pull-ups like she in prison, eating out of a can, and watching Nella outside of her office. Yo, what the hell was we doing? What the hell were we doing? Now, we end up having this whole situation where Nella is telling Malika, like, this girl thinks Hazel is evil for some reason. Girl, Nella, girl, hello. What do you mean? This girl thinks Hazel is evil for some reason. Now, I will admit, if you are working at a company like this, I would think we're doing thorough background checks and stuff like that. So yeah, it would seem pretty unlikely that somebody going by a fake name, which is, reason number 532 of how I knew Hazel was in on this with Richard. Because how the hell you just going with a fake name at this job? Like, y'all ain't do no background check? A company like this? Y'all, it just ain't make no sense. Like, girl, you don't know Hazel. If somebody telling you who, you don't know this person either, but it's like they go by another name, I'm inclined to at least check that out. But y'all, Nella having a conversation with Owen about this whole thing, and she's saying, I'm going to get answers from Hazel. And I feel like her boyfriend was giving her terrible advice. He was telling her, don't go meet with the girl. Don't go to no, baby, we should both go. Like, what do you mean just don't go? If I meet somebody new and a random stranger is telling me who I think they are isn't who they are, and for me to meet them, far as I know, I don't know you either, baby, but I'm gonna go and entertain and hear what the hell you got to say. Now my boyfriend gonna come with me for safety measure, but I'm not going to just not go. Baby, Nella ain't have no sense, and I was feeling like Owen ain't have no damn sense either, because what the hell you mean don't go? Now, we end up having this huge situation where Colin's book gets leaked. And presumably it was leaked by the sensitivity reader. And I forgot to say, the sensitivity read came back. It was not good. And Vera ended up telling Nella not to say anything. She pretty much just buried the sensitivity read. Now, this whole book gets leaked. And it's a nightmare, and it's all over social media about the book being racist, Wagner as a company being racist, and the whole company is in a frenzy. We're all at risk of losing our jobs. And Vera ends up telling Nella, I should have listened to you about the book, and I begged Colin to save your job. Now I need you. I can't go down like this. Now, y'all, the whole company is in trouble, but Hazel called out sick on this day. The girl who be acting like employee of the month done called out. Now, Malika ends up calling Nella saying she is seeing Richard Wagner and Hazel have lunch together. The way, like, all this stuff would happen. And Nella, why the hell did Nella never have a conversation with Hazel about why the hell she was having lunch with our boss? Why the hell did you call out and lie and say you were sick to go have lunch with our boss? Who wouldn't ask that question? We supposed to be friends. I would feel comfortable enough to ask. Now, if you just a random employee, I'm just going to speculate. I ain't going to really ask you because I don't know you like that. But if we supposed to be friends, girl, what was you doing? Lying saying you were sick to go have lunch with Richard. What y'all got going on? You know he mad, right? Like, it would be a conversation. Again, reason number 423 that they in on this together. What the hell would they be having lunch for? Now, we end up having this whole meeting about, like, what are we going to do to save the company with all this racism stuff going around. And Nella ends up going off in the meeting. Oh, Vera is heading the meeting. And Nella ends up going off in the meeting because Vera wants them to do this apology. And Nella is just like, Colin doesn't think he did anything wrong. So what are we writing an apology for? You shouldn't have buried the sensitivity read. Miss Ma'am. Now, y'all, why Vera ends up firing Nella? Because I told the truth. Now, just as she fires Nella, Richard walks in with Hazel. Nella isn't going anywhere. And Richard ends up announcing they're going to drop needles and pens. They're dropping Colin as a author. And I was confused while the whole thing happening, and Hazel just posted up right there with Richard. And I'm just like, nobody thinks it's odd that the employee who called out sick just walked in with the owner of the company and is posted up behind him while he in here talking. That ain't strange. But Vera is just like, Richard, are you serious? Just this morning you told me to hold on to Colin as a client. But Richard is like, well, that was this morning, and Vera, you fired. The hell changed from this morning to now. Now, Richard ends up announcing that they will be pausing Diana's memoir to focus on a re-release of Burning Heart, that Diana is on board, and Nella will be running point as assistant editor, and Hazel will help. And he gives this whole speech about I've, made a mistake. We as a company has made a mistake and we need to be more diverse. Yo, this literally comes out of nowhere. What is the change of heart? It makes no sense. There is no rhyme or reason. Now, all of a sudden, something changes from this morning to this meeting that we're going to drop Colin in this book. And we're going to do a re-release of Burning Heart. Y'all, am I tripping? Am I just not smart enough? This came out of nowhere. Why did this suddenly change? Diana was against the re-release of Burning Heart. Why is she now on board? What was Hazel and Richard talking about at lunch? I'm so confused. Nella decides to go to the meeting place with Shani. And baby, why the hell we had to go to some creepy dark dungeon and not just a public restaurant was beyond me. But it literally felt like Nella was walking to her death. And then what didn't make any sense, I'm going to meet a stranger, but I lied to my boyfriend and said I was held up at work. So not only are you going to meet a stranger, but now don't nobody even know your last whereabouts. How does this make any... Come on, black folk. We must have more sense than this. Like, that did not make the teeniest bit of sense. Baby, my boyfriend would have came with me to the meet. Now, Nella ends up getting taken to this room. Come to find out, this is just a karaoke bar. Now, we then end up seeing Shani walking down the street, seemingly on her way to this meeting, and she gets snatched up and thrown into a van. We end up seeing, at the end of this episode, Colin in a video online saying those comments that white people love to say. I'm the least racist person I know. Well, hold on, baby. How racist are the people you know? Like I'm the least racist person baby, that don't even make no sense. Because what's the comparison? I don't even see color. Oh God, now that's the one I hate. Oh, I hate the whole, I don't even see color. I wouldn't care if you were purple. Oh, I hate that so bad. Like if you don't shut your dumb ass up. When you look at me, you know good and goddamn well I'm black. That whole, y'all, now this part was actually pretty good to me. Like, I liked when they threw in Colin's online video. It was very on point, very on brand for a character like Colin. But I do wish we could have had some commentary when it comes to his video. Like maybe we could have seen Jesse on his podcast talking about it and talking about why the I'm the least racist person I know and the I don't see color is so problematic. Like I would have liked if we could have gotten some context around those phrases. Now, we end up where Richard wants Nella to get Jesse to come to Wagner Books. And she's trying to tell him we will never get Jesse. He wants nothing to do with this company. We end up seeing Nella out to lunch with Jesse. And he is impressed with her, but he wants nothing to do with Wagner. And he's like, you knew I would say no when you made this meeting. And she talks about, well, she's going to change things at Wagner. He actually offers her a job. And he's pretty much like, you know what? Whenever you decide to wise up, come see me. And he dips out. Now, there is this whole agenda with why we want Jesse with Wagner, which we'll get into later. Nella gets a knock at the door. She gets a delivery where there's no sender, and it is the original manuscript for Burning Heart. She assumes that Diane sent it to her. But this was weird. When Nella goes to talk to Diane about the manuscript, she's like, thank you for the gift. Diane act like she don't know what she's talking about because she's like, gift? The original Burning Heart manuscript. Oh, yeah. Like, that felt like, girl, I ain't sending you that. So that was weird. Y'all, who the hell sent her the manuscript? Who could have sent her the manuscript? That was just really odd to me that Diana reacted like that because it came across like I did not send you this. Hazel ends up inviting Nella to a party at her house with some of her friends. And Nella ends up going with Malika. And this felt very cult-ish. And that is how Malika was feeling. And all the black women at the party are very successful, well-to-do, upstanding black women. They acted very Stepford Wives. It was very odd. And they did not feel like real people. And this whole situation was really odd. And all the women were like being super nice to Nella. Like, you're so gorgeous. You're so stunning. And Hazel wants to do Nella's hair. But Nella is hesitant, right? And Hazel goes like, oh, you know, I know it's super personal. I get it. It's okay. You don't trust me yet. Girl, when I tell you, Hazel know how to play this girl. Oh, no, I do. It's okay. Nope, I guess I don't trust you. Nope, I don't want you to do it. Like, oh my God, the way she was playing this girl by saying certain stuff like that. Oh, it's okay. You don't trust me. Do y'all see how she playing her? Do you see how... Don't let people say stuff like that to you. Like, you not finna guilt trip me, bruh. Like, you not finna guilt trip me. Because I would just be like, oh, all right. When Nella agrees to let Hazel do her hair, I didn't like how the other ladies was like eyeing each other. But baby, when I tell you, Hazel ends up giving Nella this scalp massage, I wouldn't have fell for nothing else. None of Hazel games, but baby, you would have got me with the scalp massage. I love a scalp massage. I used to be asking my mama to massage my scalp all the time when I was a kid. Child, when I was a teenager, I ended up having a little sister. Do you know I had her massaging my scalp when she was a toddler? Like, them little hands used to be giving me a good behind scalp massage. Oh, yo, she would have got me. She would have got me with the scalp massage. Oh, I love a scalp massage. Yes, child. Now, while Hazel is massaging Nella's scalp, she ends up pulling out this hair grease. And this is when Malika comes in and she's like, what is this? Why is there no label? But Nella's like, oh, well, it smells pretty. Girl, you on a hair care journey. You gonna jeopardize that for like unknown ingredients? So Nella's just like, no. Baby, Nella is so easily swayed by people around her. Do you want her to give you the grease or not? It's like she was down for it until Malika persuaded her not to do it. And then, again, Malika's like, oh, we need to go to the bathroom. Y'all, all the ladies jump up like robots, including Hazel. Like, is everything okay? You keep needing to go to the bathroom. So Malika tried to play it off like, oh, I got Spanx on. I need help, getting it off. So Malika ends up being like, look, I'm finna go downstairs, keep them distracted. You snoop around. If you don't find nothing, I'll let it go. So Malika ends up going downstairs and trying to do Hazel's eyebrows to give Nella time to snoop. Now, Nella goes into a bedroom and ends up finding an envelope taped to the back of a mirror. And inside the envelope, there are pictures of Ruby and all the girls, and it says before and after. And there's a picture of Nella that only says before and the after is blank. Now, she ends up freaking out. tucking the envelope in her shirt. And I felt like you could see the damn envelope through the shirt, but whatever. And she runs downstairs saying it's an emergency. She has to go. So on the train, Nella ends up showing them the envelope and the papers and all of that. And Owen is like, what does voluntary and involuntary mean? So we end up having a situation, though, where I feel like, what was the point of them papers? Who was that data for? Like, that didn't make any sense to me. Why was it taped behind the mirror? Y'all, that just didn't add up for me. Because, like, who is that data for? Why do I have these papers of the women's before and after? For what? For who? For myself? Now, after the ladies leave, we end up seeing Hazel and all the ladies at her house talking about how they tried their best. But Hazel goes to say, oh, well, we still have something to celebrate. We have a new lady joining us. And she brings out Shawnee. Now, once we end up putting together that this whole mind control thing is happening with black women, Nella calls out sick from work, but there is this lunch party that is happening. Why the hell she decided she gonna go to the party? Because the reasoning is she needs to get one more person on her and Jesse's team. Why? That made no sense. You're going to the party with the agenda of you need to get one more person on you and Jesse's team. That ain't make no sense at all to me. Now, the paper you read said involuntary. So they might just stop being nice with you and just involuntarily do this mind control thing with you. Now, I had thought this was odd because Vera ended up calling to apologize. And I was just kind of like, that was feeling suspect for me. Because I was like, baby, why is you calling? But Malika wants Nella to ask her about Richard, but she doesn't. And the reasoning is, I still don't know who I could trust. So then why the hell are you going to the launch party if you don't even want to ask a question over the phone because you don't know who you can trust? So how are you going to go to the party and in person find somebody to be on you and Jesse's team? Y'all, this just ain't make no sense. None. But then it just keeps on going. Because Nella goes to the launch party alone. You couldn't at least bring your boyfriend? I mean, it's a big night for you. It would make sense your boyfriend would be there to support you. Yo, nothing about this added up or made any sense. The whole reason that we use to explain Nella going to the party in a story is because she needed to get one more person on her team, which don't make sense. But then when Vera calls, she refuses to ask about Richard, and the reason the story gives us is because she still don't know who she could trust. But she going to this lunch party. It don't make sense. And then we know mind control is happening involuntarily, but you go into the belly of the beast by yourself. Owen was useless. What the hell was the point of the boyfriend? She keep going everywhere the damn hell by herself. Now, Malika ends up going to Vera's house, trying to get information on Richard. And Vera is talking about him cheating and just like minuscule stuff that Malika's like, no, I need big stuff. Now, at the lunch party, Nella ends up going to look for Diane. This made absolutely no sense. Soon as Nella gets to the party, she is focused on finding Diane. She finds Diane in the restroom, and she tells her that Hazel and Richard are turning black women into corporate drones against their will. She don't know how they're doing it, but they're trying to do it to her, and she thinks Richard did it to Kendra years ago. Wait a minute now. You've been working at this company for 2-3 years. Hazel only just started working at the company. You believe Hazel and Richard are in on this turning black women mind control thing, but you don't think Diane, who has known Richard for 30 years is either one of his mind control victims or in on this with him. But you think he tried to use mind control on Diane's best friend all them years ago. So he tried to use mind control on Kendra, but not Diane. This last little sequence frustrated me beyond belief because it was so nonsensical. Nella ain't got the sense God gave a duck. Like, are you kidding me? What the hell? Diane immediately goes into, I believe you. I knew something wasn't right. That's why I left all those years ago. You left all them years ago because something wasn't right. But then you sure was at Richard's beck and call and popped the hell back up when he rang for you. And this was the point, y'all. Well, I was sitting there dying like, how the hell is there 2 episodes left? Like, end this shit. End it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was not into, and this especially, this sequence, it was pissing me off. Because it was just so illogical. Like, why we had to have Nella do the dumbest shit to move the story? Oh, we gotta get her to this lunch party. So let's say, oh, she's on a mission to get one more person on her team. But we don't want Vera to drop the information before she goes to the lunch party that Diane and Richard had a sexual relationship. So we're going to say that she doesn't know who she could trust. And that's why she won't ask Vera. Come on, writer. Come on, writer. We could do better than this. Now, Diane ends up telling Nella, Richard can't think anything is wrong. Let's just enjoy the party as much as we can. Why? No, girl, let's get the hell up out of here. Like, this don't make sense. If I'm Nella, which I would never be Nella because I'm not this idiotic, but if I'm Nella and I'm at this party and I'm trying to get one more person on my side and warn Diane and she believes me and the bitch tell me we need to just stay at the party and don't let Richard think nothing wrong. Hell no, girl, that don't even make no sense. And I ain't go to Harvard. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. But my brain know that don't make no damn sense. We need to get the heck up out of Dodge City. Why the hell can't Richard think anything wrong? I don't care what he think if we gone. I'm sorry, y'all. Let me stop screaming. Richard gets on stage and announces the first signee is going to be Jesse Watson. Jesse gets on stage. Thank you, Nella, for helping me to see the light. Now, when they get backstage, Nella has a conversation with Jesse. And she's like, what the hell going on? Like, and Jesse is up saying, Nella, after our chat, I got a haircut and I realized I think you got Richard all wrong. Hold on now, child. He got a haircut. The guy affiliated with Hazel cuts hair. So that is how we got Jesse. Now, remember earlier I said there was an agenda for why they wanted Jesse. Because of his social reach. And they wanted someone of his status to be on their team with Wagner Books. We end up seeing Malika rushing to leave Vera's house, trying to call Nella, and she leaves a voicemail about Diane, and right when she goes to call Owen, she ends up getting hit by a car before she could say anything, and Shawnee is the one driving. Now, Nella ends up running out after her speech and everything and going crazy, and this ain't made no damn sense to me. She's outside. She's trying to call, you know, like she's on her phone, and she don't hear an entire car speeding and screeching to a halt behind her with headlights on, beaming on her, and it's nighttime. You ain't noticed? Okay. They grab her, throw her into the van. I was very annoyed. After this happens, we get I want to say it was an entire episode of a whole backstory with Hazel. Y'all, this whole backstory annoyed me, and I really feel like we did not need it. We did not need it. It was very unnecessary. And I feel like it just changed the entire like momentum of the story. I was just like, wait, what? Now what we do? Everything that came to a head. Nella done got kidnapped. I thought Malika was dead. Everything has seemingly been revealed. And then now we spend an episode going backwards to tell the story of Hazel and how she met Diane. I was sitting here like, baby, what is we doing? Now, pretty much to sum it up, Hazel, mother was paralyzed. She had to take care of her mother. She couldn't get like, a prestigious job because she didn't have a college degree. She had to work nights, etc., etc. She sneaks and lies to get into Harvard to see Diane speak. She ends up with a jerk behind a white girl in the audience bothering with her. And I was annoyed because the white girl in the audience was being rude as hell. But when Hazel tell her to like shut the hell up, it's like she did something wrong. No, like you shouldn't be a jerk. Like, what, am I not supposed to address that? But anyway, she ends up connecting with Diane, who has these girls who get together and meet, and I ask them what they want, and I grease they scalp with the mind control hair grease. And we have Nella tied to a chair, and like, y'all, where the hell was they? Warehouse? I don't know where we was. But she's tied to a chair. All the ladies are around her, including Hazel and Diana. Diana is like, what do you want, Nella? I want to get the hell up out of here. That's not on the table. You want to be an editor and tell black stories so the little girl inside of you feels less alone. That's what you told me. But this whole, I'm finna use the mind control hair grease, it makes no sense. Now, in a situation with Ruby, where you got somebody living a certain lifestyle, off the rails, no direction, then you use mind control to turn them into an upstanding person, okay, whatever. But the rationale with somebody like Nella makes no sense to me. Nella was already college educated, working at a prestigious publishing company, working hard to become an editor. Why did she need you to kidnap her and put her under mind control hair grease to become an editor? I'm so confused. Now, Diane ends up telling Nella when Jesse's book comes out, you'll be right there next to him, getting the credit you deserve. But she like, Jesse wrote a book in 3 days? Well, no, Jesse's name will be on the book, but it is a book that has been in the works for years. Diane and some of the greatest minds in their sisterhood, you mean the mind control minds, have written the book, and it is going to change the way black people feel about themselves. The people you mind controlling gonna write a book to change the way black people feel about themselves. Okay, now all the ladies end up grabbing Nella, even though she tied up, and Hazel is just about to put some grease on her. And this is something that kept annoying me. Every time we see somebody get grease, they literally get a glob of grease, but then they just put a little dab on the person like temples. That wasn't consistent. But anyway, next thing we know, the ladies get tased. It's Kendra. Now, Diane is facing the ladies. How she ain't see somebody coming up behind them, beyond me. But anyway, Kendra ends up popping up, tasing everybody, and getting Nella free. Kendra and Nella are together, and Kendra says, Shani found me and told me Diane was after you. How the hell Shani found her? Because the whole thing is Kendra been living on the run, hiding from Diane and Richard. So how Shani found her? How Shani even knew to look for her? Because Richard told us the story that everybody know is that Kendra's bag and purse was found on the train and she just disappeared. So that ain't make no sense. Now, Kendra says, After Nella fought for her ending, she knew she had to save her. What? Huh? You ain't saved none of the other black women that they've been mind controlling over 35 years, but you had to save Nella because she fought for your ending? How the hell did Kendra even know Nella fought for her ending? How could you possibly know that? Richard and Diane couldn't have told you because you've been on the run from them. How you got that information, girl? The whole situation is that Kendra has been on the run for 35 years, and she's telling Nella she has to do the same thing. Nella wants to see her friend, her boyfriend, because Kendra ends up telling her she'll never see them again. So she takes Nella to the hospital to see Malika. Owen is there. Now we end up seeing Hazel, Richard, and Diane. Baby, they can't find Nella. How the hell are you not at the hospital where her best friend is at if you looking for her? Nothing makes sense. Any other time, they knew that Nella was at the restaurant with Jesse. But now they don't know where she at, even though she at the hospital where her best friend is laid up at. For real, y'all? Now, Malika and Nella end up having a conversation, and Malika is trying to convince Nella that, you know, she can't just run, she can't just give up, but Nella is saying that she has to run to protect Malika and Owen, and that Kendra is right. Richard and Diane, them are just too powerful, but Malika tries to tell Nella that, look, Kendra is not the hero you feel like she is. She abandoned everybody. She knew what Diane was doing for 35 years, and she's pretty much trying to convince Nella that things are different for her now than they were for Kendra years ago, and that she needs to focus on stopping Jesse's book from ever getting published. And that ends up convincing her, and we then see Malika, Owen, and Nella at home. They were at home. But Richard, Diane, them can't find Nella. Whatever. Nella ends up getting the idea to leak Jesse's book so that he gets canceled and it foils their whole plan. Now, Nella ends up with the bright idea to use Susie's badge to get into the office so that she can get the manuscript. Yet again, she goes there by herself. My brain is about to explode. We were just talking about running because of how powerful these people are. They literally snatched your black ass up, threw you in a van, and tied you up in a warehouse and was finna grease your scalp. But you showing up to the Wagner office by yourself. Oh my God. Yo, am I the only person that feels like this is dumb as hell? I can't. I cannot. Nella ends up getting into Richard's computer. She downloads the manuscript to a hard drive. This light flash is not consistent because they try to attach it to like the hair grease. But baby, Nella was seeing lights flash and flicker when she ain't have no grease on her scalp. So it don't add up. And yet again, in present day, when Nella's in the office getting the manuscript, the lights buzz and she walking through the halls. Scalp is greaseless. Now, Kendra's picture on the wall ends up falling, and Nella decides to reach over, grab a piece of glass, which cuts her finger, and she decides, you know what? These people are after me. I'm behind enemy lines. Let me go stop in the restroom and just pour water on my hand because I got time to kill. Why the hell did you reach over to grab a piece of motherfucking glass? I cannot be the only person that feels like this makes absolutely no mother freaking sense. Now, Hazel pops up while Nella is in the restroom. And she gives this speech about, I really am your friend. Just listen to me. And this is why I say we did not need a whole episode with Hazel's backstory. Hazel could have just, in this conversation, Hazel says, I came from nothing. Diana gave me my way out. Good enough. Good enough as far as I'm concerned. We did not need the whole episode focused on Hazel. I'm sorry. And I know I always be complaining in my reviews about show me, don't tell me. But this was not that time. Baby, just tell me. Okay? All we needed from Hazel was I didn't come from anything. Diane pulled me up, helped me out. Okay, that explains it all. Now you're working with her. You feel like you're, okay, great. All right, we got it. Hazel ends up saying we can be real friends. We can work on projects we care about. And she goes to tell Nella, like, do you think white folks are distracted all day about how furious they are with the world? Everyone makes sacrifices to get ahead. Like, you've already done it. You went to a white school to get your foot in the door. You tell Richard how smart he is. You tell Vera how insightful she is. Diane made compromises too, and you love Burning Heart. It changed your life. So Hazel pulls out the hair grease, sits it on the counter, and it's like, this just makes it so it doesn't hurt. And when Nella says, well, what will I become? A person with an easier life. So she just puts the grease, Hazel just puts the grease down and walks out. And they end up flashing to Diane putting the grease on herself, Hazel putting the grease on herself. And I'm kind of confused because I thought this was mind control grease. So how you just sitting there putting it on yourself? Like what? And saying, oh, it just makes it so it doesn't hurt? Okay. I don't even want to use my brain cells. But I'm still confused with how can we move forward with Nella after the display at that party? Like, she called Jesse a robot, and like, okay. Now, we end up seeing a flashback of Kendra, like, packing up to leave, and she's, like, grabbing her head and hearing whispers and stuff like that. If she was under the mind control hair grease, how did she have the wherewithal to choose to leave? I don't understand that. Now, we end up seeing Jesse, Hazel, Richard, Diane, everybody, at the office in the conference room, toasting when Nella walks in with long straight weave, makeup, looking completely like a just different person. And Jesse is like, what are you doing here? Richard and Diane asked me to come back. I'm going to make sure your book gets into as many hands as possible. And Richard ends up giving a toast to Nella, their newest senior editor. And we end up seeing Jesse get into an Uber where Kendra is driving and Malika jumps up and tases him. So they are kidnapping Jesse. And then we see Nella on the phone in her new office saying, I'm in, let's burn it down. The series ends on that, I guess, cliffhanger, gives us where there can be a continuation of the story. And let's get into some of my thoughts, child. Now, I have to say, the mind control hair grease, yeah, that kind of annoyed me. Like, I'm getting a little annoyed with black folk in horror sci-fi right now. Between They Clone Tyrone and the Hood Frankenstein movie I just saw. I can't think of the name. What was the name of it? Hold on, y'all. The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. Between They Clone Tyrone, The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster, that movie Bitch Ass from last year, The Blackening. Why, when we have these black horror, why it always got to be centered on like some real black-ish? Like, come on, the hair grease, for real? The spades with blackening. I just feel like I would like black character driven sci-fi horror thriller whatever where the characters have conflict not centered on being black, where the central like plot and theme is not centered on some real black-ish. Like, come on, man. Hair grease. Come on, man. I want to say something positive. All the music was hitting. I liked all the music they played throughout the series. The performances were well. They were good. That's all I got. This was honestly a struggle to get through. It was excruciating to get through. I feel like it was a deterrent to the story to make Hazel so suspicious from jump. I would have preferred if she didn't come off that way and it just slowly unfolded. But you knew she was doing some suspect-ish off rip. In the story, we tackle a conflict regarding Burning Heart having this dark original ending versus the happy ending they give it. But then we turn around and for me give this series a happy-ish ending because we're not quite at the end, but I wanted something darker. I wanted it where either by choice or by force, Nella is part of the mind control fake women crew. I would like a much more darker, serious and sinister tone, especially with the workplace interactions. Those characters, I did not like the comedic tone. Vera, the tone in general for this series is off for me. It opens with this nightmare horror thriller-esque sequence, but the interactions in the office feel comedic and sitcom-y. The co-workers are very wacky, a little too wacky for my taste. It's more comedy drama, and then the like thriller horror elements feel like an afterthought. Not really the central root of the story. And I mean, like I said, the lights flicker for whatever the hell reason. We throw in the van kidnapping. It just feels like the series doesn't quite know what it wants to be. The central theme of this plot for me is confusing. Aren't we playing into the forced role of black people in white spaces with this mind control hair grease and this transformation, forced transformation we do on these black women? The hair, the aesthetics, it aligns with white beauty standards. Having mind control hair grease to make these black women have an attitude that is a lot more palatable or extra pleasant, non-threatening. The hair grease isn't allowing us to be ourselves. It's allowing us to conform. That's not freedom. A black woman who creates a mind control hair grease with the goal of forcing black women to become successful, docile puppets. What's the moral to the story? So instead of white media and society and beauty standards controlling black women, Diane will control them with the focus of getting the same outcome as the white media societal beauty standards agenda. Like, huh? Like I said, what's the moral? What's the message? So we do need to tone ourselves down and reject our natural beauty for white beauty standards? Because why was Diane not on board with Nella's original look, but loved the change of the look with the long straight hair? I feel like it is giving that, yeah, you got to trade your blackness, your authenticity, your identity for success. And I'm finna make this hair grease because, yeah, we need to assimilate. For a story like this, I feel like there was no real tension. The only real tension to me was mixed in with the dynamics of Nella at her all-white office. Because, child, you never know how that ish gonna go down. What the hell white folk gonna say to you at any given moment. And, baby, is Diane at home just making jars of hair grease and shipping them out to Boston and stuff like that? Like, you just making jars of hair grease? I don't understand. Diane, Hazel, Kendra are all okay or complacent in forcing black women to assimilate with the mind control hair grease because it's best for them, best for black people. We are taking away these women's authority, God-given free will, because it's best for them. But the pitch with the hair grease is freedom and being able to be yourself. But no, you turn into a whitewashed Stepford wife version of yourself. Yeah. Overall, I was not a big fan. I wasn't. That's just, my opinion. But yeah, I wasn't very thrilled with this. It was excruciating. I want my life back. I want the time back that I spent on this series. But let me know in the comments, how did you feel about the Other Black Girl series? And that title, The Other Black Girl, I thought it was going to be like some single white female type of ish. But it wasn't. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for supporting the channel. Make sure you go over to my Girl Struggle Reviews channel and see me and her talk about The Other Black Girl. You'll see some more thoughts and opinions on this series. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.